Hey prospect, you better shine up my bike essay. Who's going to be shining up bikes and who's going to be getting patched in to Santo Padre? It's Fog Entertainment, guys. Welcome back to the channel. We put a poll up to see who the best Santo Padre prospect was. The votes are in, but let's talk a little bit about getting patched in. Funny enough, all 4 prospects in the entire Mayans MC series actually got patched into the club. Now, you can argue Nestor, Bottles and Steve didn't last very long. I think Bottles probably had the least amount of time, or potentially Steve, because as soon as Steve got patched in, he like killed himself straight away. But anyway, Steve, Nestor and Bottles, they all did become members for like 5 minutes, if that counts, but they never went to bed and woke up as patched members, which is very strange. You know, they got to live the Mayan dream for about 2 minutes combined between the 3 of them, but it's not a long time to be a patched member of the club. Easy, as you know, he got patched in at the end of season 2, and he wore that patch up until the day that he died, and he even got to be president. But anyway, let's look at the poll, let's look at the results, and the first thing I have to say is, what the fuck, Steve? 8%. Steve bringing up the rear here. Not many people are fans of Steve. You've got Bottles with 9%, Nestor with 20%, and then Easy Reyes with 63%. Do I agree that Easy Reyes was the best prospect? I mean, in a way, yes, because he's head and shoulders above everyone else. I mean, even when he was prospect, he was coming up with ideas. He may as well have been the president, for fuck's sake. He was like getting all the important duties and stuff like that. He just felt like a more important member than pretty much everyone else at the table. So Easy from day one has always felt like he was a patched member. Hell, he's always felt like he was El Padrino of the entire series since day one, since he wore the prospect patch. Now, I'm looking at the other 3 guys. Now, Nestor, I mean, he done a good job. He got patched in. Bottles came across as a little bit less competent than Nestor, but he still done whatever the club wanted him to do, and he ended up getting patched in. But let's talk a little bit about Steve. Steve was a bit of a joke. How this guy ever got patched in is beyond me. What Hank ever seen in this guy was beyond me. They literally just bullied him for like more or less the entirety of season 3. And then I think at the end of it, they felt sorry for him. Went, you know what? We bullied this guy. Let's just patch him in. And then Steve patched himself out. Like 2 minutes later, boom, bang to the head. But Steve, out of these 3, should never have been patched in. Easy, Nestor, Bottles, yes. But for me, Steve, he was never ready, and he never would be ready to be a club member. How could you send Steve to do something like, you know, you couldn't really trust him like you could other members. You could send other members to go and do something. You would trust them to do it. You couldn't send this guy anywhere. You couldn't even send him to fucking do the grocery shopping, man. The guy wasn't very good. He couldn't even carry glass bottles from one side of the bar to the other. I don't know how he got patched in. What the fuck, Hank? What were you thinking? Bringing this guy in, you know, making this guy a prospect, putting the history, putting the future of the Mayans MC in Steve. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. Although you could argue that Steve was loyal and he did try to the best of his abilities to help the club. Whereas Easy, he's always going to have that rat thing hovering above his head. He's always going to be tainted. Easy's like the tainted rat. You know, he might be the golden boy, he might be the man with the magical mystery, memory, powers, but at the end of the day, he was working, you know, he's working with the feds. So, rat or no rat, whether he was going to do anything that got the Mayans in trouble, he was still working with the feds. So that's a big no-no. That's a big red flag in the MC world. But you guys voted Easy. I have to agree. If you take out Easy, then I probably agree with the order. The order is Easy with 63%, then Nestor 20%, Bottles 9%, and Steve 8%. I would say that order is absolutely fine. Definitely though, I don't think Steve should only be 1% off Bottles, because that makes Bottles look bad. I think Bottles should have a much bigger margin over Steve. But, you know, whatever. You guys voted that way. Now, let's see what you had to say in the comments. 35 in total, so a bit more comments today. I think people care more about prospects than they do the women that work behind the bar, that's for sure. Anyway, well, probably would help if you knew who the women were, to be fair. Right, anyway, let's go news first. So we'll start with Sports Stock TV. Poor Steve overcame it all to be patched, and then boom, out of nowhere. I know, but in all honesty, he boomed himself out of nowhere. It's not like he was taken out. I feel worse for Bottles and Nestor because they were wiped out by the ATF. I mean, Steve, if he really wanted to, he could have had 2 years in the club before it all came crashing down, but he brought himself crashing down. So, plus, suicide is pretty poor. Poor way to go. Poor way to go in general, but definitely a poor way to go in the club. Anyway, let's move on. Maxi Milano says, the funny thing is that Steve, Bottles and Nestor died on the same day they became full patches. Yeah, I mean, full day. I mean, probably the same hour, if we're being honest. Arguably, yeah, could easily be the same hour that they died. SP Slayer says, not on this list, nor was he a Santo Padre prospect, but Half-Sack deserved to be patched in before his untimely death. Man knew how to throw hands. Well, yeah, this was a Santo Padre poll, that's why he's not on this, but he did get patched in after his death, so, I mean, I guess that's better than nothing, but no, Half-Sack was definitely patched member material, and that's why he was patched in post his death. Andre Souza said, easy as a rat. I mean, yeah, we've covered this. But we still have to put Easy in polls. We have to consider him for, contention for anything. We can't just pretend that Easy doesn't exist because he was a rat. We can't just give him the Chris Benoit treatment and pretend that he doesn't exist. Easy was a rat, and it's always going to be, something that hovers over him. It's always going to be one of those red flags, a black mark on his name. It's always going to taint him a little bit. But I still think he deserves to be recognised for what he done. And, I mean, yeah, he ratted, but all he really did was rat on Galindo. He didn't really rat on the club. Although he did kill Creeper, which was bad. But then again, if we're going to take away people that killed club members, then we have to take away Taza, because he killed Riz. So, if we start excluding people just because they've done something wrong, then we're going to pretty much exclude the whole list. I mean, Angel might not have ratted on the club, but he was betraying the club from episode 1. Him, Coco and Gilly. So again, if we're going to eliminate Easy from any sort of discussion, then we probably have to do the same for Angel, Coco and Gilly, because they were betraying the club and they were, going against what the club were doing. They were actually putting the club in harm's way, feeding them bullshit and working with Adelite and the Rebels. So, yeah. Miguel Mohia said Easy was a rat, automatically disqualified. I mean, I get some people saying that, but I think people are too harsh. I do think people are very, very harsh here on Easy being a rat. DeBears05 said Steve was a coward. I mean, that he was. He wasn't great. He was not great. I mean, I think he was a nice enough guy and all that stuff, but he wasn't cut out for the MC world. Mark R said, I feel like these polls need more time to cook. I missed out on a few. Understood. I will be Heisenberg in the future. I won't rush this. I'll make sure we get the quality just right. 99% pure poll. That's what we're going for in the future. Big Dog said, I'm not just saying Easy because he's the main character. He was one of the best on the show. But out of the prospects, I think Steve is the... Steve! Miguel Mohia says Steve was the worst. Yeah, Steve sucked. I mean, come on. Fucking hell. Justin Bieber. Jess would have made a better Mayan than Steve, for God's sake. Alitierful said Easy was a rat, Steve was a pussy, Bottles is not a 1%er, and Nestor was a cartel hitman. Well, when you put it like that, it's pretty much four failures, I guess. Andrew Gonzalez said Bottles put in way more work. Yeah, no, Bottles was loyal. I like Bottles. It's just a shame that I would have liked to have seen Bottles being a prospect for longer. I get it, Nestor couldn't start prospecting until season 4 because up until that period he was working with Miguel, and storyline wise there was no reason for him to join the club. But I think it would have been good if we could have seen Bottles maybe be a prospect from the beginning of season 4. There was no real reason why they couldn't do that. They needed a prospect to replace Steve, so I think that could have worked, but we didn't get that. But although what I would say is, I think if they did have a prospect at the beginning of season 4, they would have probably died in the premiere, because let's be honest, the clubhouse was under attack and they would have probably used any prospects to add to the kill count. Because look at those two guys with all charters, they just had them get wiped out. The two brothers, boom. Unplugged said Easy had photographic memory as a prospect, then all of a sudden it's gone. Thanks, Elgin. Yeah, I know, I didn't get that. Demon Son said it wasn't Elgin's fault. They wanted to do at least 6 seasons, but FX didn't let them and told them to wrap up in the 5th one. What has this got? That I don't understand this comment. Do you believe that they were magically going to bring back Easy's photographic memory in season 6? The point is, he used it frequently in season 1 and 2, and then by the time Kurt Sutter leaves and Elgin James comes in, they don't they don't call upon it once. Not in the 3 following seasons. They don't use his photographic memory once, which I thought was very strange. But, yeah, no, just a waste. Because that was actually unique. I like that about Easy. Hunter Halga said, Easy is the best mind from Santo Padre, hands down. Went from a prospect to Prez so fast. Diane and Famous Dawn said, I fucking love this show better than SOA. Wow. I love this show better than SOA. Damn it, mate. Delete the comment quick before anybody sees it. Delete that. Sharad Pierre says, man, you all chatting. Steve was not the goat, man. He was a fucking literal goat. That's what Steve was, man. The guy was a moron. Probably, I mean, his big fat ass would have been better out in a field eating grass, for sure. He was not cut out to be a club member, no doubt about it. D-Nick said Easy was the most ruthless prospect. He saved Alvarez then when they were working with Potter's Mercs, but at the end of the day he was a rat and rats deserved to die. Rats deserved to be exterminated. Mikael Folger said, I wish Bottles would have been in before Steve. Poor Steve wasn't cut out for being an outlaw. I blame Hank for what happened to Steve. Hank was Sergeant at Arms and should have known Steve wasn't cut out for that life. On Hank. I agree. I don't know what Hank's issue was in season 3. To be fair, I don't know what Hank's issue was the entire show. The guy fucking sucked. There's no doubt about it. Hank was a terrible character. I would say he was the worst Mayans out of the ones from at least the originals. The original Santo Padre group. He was the worst for me. I just never liked the guy. Never thought he was any good. And he did. He sucked. Especially when you compare him to his counterpart in SOA. Look how good Tig was, then look how shit Hank was. I mean, come on. Some Killer says, the fuck kind of question this is? Well, it's the kind of question where we put a poll up, guys, and then you select one of the answers. There you go. Simple. Andrew Smith said, I voted for the fat guy. I voted for the fat guy, Steve. Thank you, because I didn't even remember his name. I mean, why the hell are you voting for him? If you don't remember his name, if he was that bad, if he was that unmemorable that you can't remember his name, then surely you don't think he's the best prospect of all time. If he was a good prospect, you would remember his name, surely. User said, poor Steve. I do feel sorry for Steve, but fuck it, he sucked. Matthew Smith said Nestor was the GOAT. Joseph said, even though he was probably the least cool, I think Steve was the most interesting and had a great story arc. That I do agree with. Elias Sweeney then replied, yeah, as I was watching it, it felt the mirror opposite of Phil's arc from SOA. Yeah, look, we can all sit here and say that Steve wasn't cut out for the patch and that, he wasn't good enough and he was a joke and he shouldn't have been patched in, he was weak, this and that, pussy, blah, 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 blah. But I do think he was an interesting character, there's no doubt about that, and I did enjoy his story arc. It was almost like he wanted this, he wanted it so badly, he probably never thought he could get it, people never thought he could get it, he was like the underdog, he finally got what he wanted. He got patched in, but at the expense of killing someone, and he just couldn't live with that, and he ended up killing himself. So it is pretty tragic when you break it down. No, I like Steve as a character, don't get me wrong. I enjoy the Steve character. I thought he was good, and I thought it was definitely a different element they added to season 3, and I like him. Definitely, probably one of my top. If I had to rank the Mayans characters, which I will, where would Steve rank? I would say I'd probably put Steve in possibly top 20. I think that's how high I would have Steve. But as an actual member of a Mayans motorcycle club, he just was not good enough. He wasn't competent enough. He shouldn't have been in there. Caden Dreenan said Nestor and Easy, even though Easy was a rat, he still saved half the lives. They put in work as well. Yeah, no, he was a rat, but he did work hard. At times he was running the club by himself. At times he felt like he was the only one with a fucking brain as well. So Aaron Longer said, what the fuck, Steve? I agree, what the fuck, Steve? How's he coming last? Mike Norris said, Easy was an active rat as a prospect and working with the rebels behind half the club's back. True, but, so was everyone else. That's a great point. Even if Easy didn't rat, Easy was already going against the older members by helping out the rebels. You all really expect him to turn over Angel. Yeah, no, we can't blame Easy for that, but surely Angel, Coco, and Gilly, the actual patch members, have to take way more blame than Easy. You can argue that Easy's just following their lead, especially considering that Angel was his sponsor. So really, Easy, by following his sponsors, probably, I wouldn't say he's doing the right thing by betraying the club and lying to the club, but he's following the orders of his sponsor. He's been loyal to his sponsor, who's also a club member. What's Angel, Coco's, and Gilly's excuse? Don't think they have one. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, Easy was part of that, but I don't really put that on him. That's on the free patch members for sure. King Jeter said Nestor easily. User said Anthony. Who is this Anthony guy? Every single time there's a poll, there's a comment for Anthony, and I've never seen one guy called Anthony in the fucking polls. What's happening? What the fuck, Anthony? Seriously, why does his name keep popping up? There is no Anthony's in these polls. There's no Anthony options. Yet Anthony keeps appearing. I don't get it. Temps DG said Easy was a rat half his time as prospect. Nestor put in the work time and time again since recruited. He did. I mean, Nestor did put in a lot of work. There's no doubt about that. Some killer said not nearly. He was 8 months away from patching in at the end of season 1. Miguel Mohia said Easy was a rat the entire prospect. And 68700 said First. Again, I don't see anybody on this list called First, but here, I guess that's one vote for First. But he's still going to be last behind Steve, behind Bottles, behind Nestor, behind Easy. So there you go, guys. Easy Reyes voted as the best prospect that Santo Padre had. That's it for this poll. Expect more. But until then, you guys know what to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, and I will catch yous in the next one. Fog Entertainment. Peace out.